bit of an exclusion, just over a couple $1,000 because of ERS allowances, but that brought us to a maximum allowable tax levy increase of 4.26. The appropriated fund balance has not changed, nor our planned use of reserves or interfund transfer and other revenue. So there's your 3% and the tax levy goes there. The revenue is broken down by state aid. Remember, we have components of state aid and expense-driven aid. In other words, those aids that we spend with BOCES, for example, a large amount of that comes back to us in aid. Foundation aid is what we keep our eye on. Right now, we all know the governor has proposed what would be a net cut for us. We don't show that here because ultimately, I think once we reach April 1st, the legislative budget is going to come out much more in favor. And I think it's safe to do that right now. And again, I don't know if you want to spend any time on this, but this is state aid explained just a little bit by the supplement. Yeah. So shall I go forward with the administrative slides? Nothing has changed, so we'll just skip through those if that's okay. Capital is much the same, there are no changes here yet. Capital outlay, which is in the capital component, we are getting closer to what we think we should place in that project. We're settling right now on some of the basement structure improvements to the Knox building. Right now we've got window wells, we've got some issues with the cement walls and foundation that really need to be repaired. And so that's right now where we're thinking capital outlay is going to end up primarily. And that will be advertised in the budget newsletter. And so here we are, program. Again, you've seen this. This is nothing new to you, but for the public and for the purpose of this evening, I'll just go through it. We're looking at roughly 72.5% of the total proposed budget. That's why it's such a big ticket item. Pretty much 31 million, did I say thousand? $31,528,297 is what we propose to spend on the instructional part of the budget. This is teaching of all academic subjects, transportation, special education, teaching, library media, data, materials, supplies, textbooks, BOCES contracts, and other instructional salaries and benefits. And here's a breakdown of instruction. We're looking at a 7.4% increase, which I'll explain in the next slide. Transportation is a moderate increase. The interfund transfers you see there is primarily due, that negative is primarily due to the wellness of our food service program. And so we're now operating in the black, do we say? For the food service program, which is really good news. And it's a credit to the decisions the board has made to move to the BOCES service. And I think it's going pretty well from what I hear. But that is where that savings is, because we used to fund the lunch fund, and now we're finding we have to fund that less and less each year, and I hope that continues that trajectory. And employee benefits, there we do see a decrease. That decrease is aligned with the redistribution of how we pay for benefits in each component of the budget, and I know I explained that to you before. So we're looking at a moderate increase of 2.62% for the program. And a little bit more about instructional spending, that largest number. Regular school is pretty much our teachers, general classroom teachers, I would say. You're seeing a little bit less there. However, students with disabilities and special needs and special schools, you're looking at a pretty big increase, and that is definitely due to the influx of increased special education needs and services. Media and educational technology you can think of all of our technology needs that are run through the NARIC BOCES, Capital Region BOCES, our library media centers in each building, their salaries, benefits, and so obviously increases there as well. And finally, student services and activities, another hefty increase, and that is attributed primarily to the SEAL team that I keep talking about, psychologists, counselors, keeping those folks engaged in the plan that we have going. Any questions so far?
So you're talking about those positions that we're going to keep, right?
Yes. Yeah. So they were once funded federally, and now they're back in the budget. You know, I would like to tell the board, as I think I've been trying to say along, we will evaluate the programs on an annual basis. You know, we're in that process, and my goal is to evaluate everything from extracurriculars to athletics, to the academic programs we offer, to the number of school nurses we have. I mean, we just need to keep taking a look at that. And right now, that big number is, I feel, what I need to recommend to the board, to the public, to support our kids. So the program component, 67% of this is actually salary and benefits. Pretty impressive number. So that's where a lot of our increases lie. We have a slight decrease in the BOCES, materials, supplies, contractual services, some professional learning. In this slide, I outlined some of those programs which we're sustaining through this budget. For example, pre-kindergarten. The district now enjoys 3 full-day pre-kindergarten classrooms, and we're continuing to use grant funding to fund those. When I say they're part of this budget, they are part of this budget in terms of we're not funding them through the general budget, but we rely on grants to do so. So the day those grants dry up, we have decisions to make. Do we continue to fund pre-K in the general budget, or do we not fund it?
Are you turning away kids for pre-K? More demand?
We had a waiting list at first. We had the Head Start program, which we're not continuing next year. But we did have a waiting list, but that quickly went away because we had students exit, and so we could take on the kids. Right now, we have no waiting list. So we're ripe for about 3 full-day programs. If we were to go to 4 full-day programs, I'd love to do that expansion. But the funny thing about pre-K is that if you can't fill the classroom with 18 students, you report that and you actually lose your funding because you couldn't fill that. It's just a gamble, so we really have to make, and we haven't had a full classroom on the waiting list to expand that program. There might come a day to do that. Does that make sense? I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to say about that. It's kind of there for you, but the comprehensive instructional plan, or the SIP that I talk a lot about, that is pretty much our guaranteed curriculum that I talk about so much, and all of the components, how we make that guarantee viable, how we support it every day. Money talks, right? And putting our money where our mouth is basically the gist of that. The multi-tiered system of support plan is an ongoing and kind of evolving plan, and that is pretty much articulating what we do at a tier 1 level for students, all students, and for those students who have an intermediary need for extra help. And finally, tier 3, the most intensive help that we offer. And finally, special education is in there. Long-range financial planning, the board knows firsthand from the retreat especially, how much we're engaged in that. And I'm pretty proud of that work. I think we keep bragging that we're up to 30, 31, but I think pretty soon we're going to be past that. 30, 32, 33. So literacy has been a real focus of our district. It continues through this budget. We continue to fund the elementary staff we need, curriculum materials, professional learning, and the social, emotional, academic learning team obviously is a focus. And finally, we're just trying to improve and feed that ever-improving graduation rate that we have, including reading and math improvements. we've seen a lot of improvement when we keep that going. So not to forget, a couple of things that we are engaged in has happened. You have opened a building. You have populated that with the right staff. You have done all of this as a board with the help of administration and certainly teachers and staff, custodians, everybody involved. You know, because we had to think about the contractual requirements. As a result, what are the safety requirements, the curriculum requirements, and finally master scheduling, because the master schedule dictates everything. We're keeping in this budget all curricular and extracurricular programs. AIS, which was funded in our previous years, the additional AIS folks, I should say, those are not being, some of those are not being funded, but I think I explained that too in the academic committee meetings and the audit budget finance committee meetings. So we're trying to keep the supports relevant so that our curriculum and our extracurricular programs can remain strong. Transportation, you know that's been a big deal as well. Shared decision-making process made recommendations to move to private carrier, and so tonight you have a resolution to move forward with that. It is not a contract, it's just the motion that we're looking ahead. There you go, okay. So we have, in the next slide, just a reminder of the completed and the pending improvements that we have, been able to make and plan. The small capital project, which is essentially complete. If you remember, that was the replacement of the turf field. And I don't need to remind you of that, but set that aside and move to the right where it says medium and you can see capital projects. We're about to embark on that shovel. But unfortunately, I think facilities and audit budget and finance will find out probably going to be a summer off from that, just because of the way state ed approval of our plans is going. They're really behind. And so, if not this summer, we're doing what we can, but it's more likely next summer. But you can see right there in front of you, this is a project not to exceed $15 million. Nothing really sexy, forgive me for saying that. But the energy performance contract is going to improve so much about our district, including all the lighting, building envelopes, heating. It's really a wonderful project that we're helping work on. And what we have to look forward to. So back in May of 2023, the voters approved a reserve to fund a small capital project. We call that small number 2. And that is not to exceed $5 million. It's a term of 10 years. Going to be used for the purposes of renovations, improvements, reconstruction, transferring a balance of the bus purchase reserve fund. I think this supports our long-range plan in terms of finishing up the fencing at Knox Field. We've been talking about bathroom improvements for the improvement of the inclusive environments and safety and a number of other things which I think we might even be reporting on at facilities that next month. And finally, the 2024 Capital Reserve Fund for a new large capital project yet to come. So this May, we hope to ask the voters to approve the not to exceed amount of $10 million to fund a much larger project in the future. We're talking about 27, 28. And that project has even yet to be established. The scope of that is based on a new building condition survey, which is beginning pretty soon.
We started the beginning steps, so that should be completed by the fall, and then we'll engage the facilities committee in that planning effort.
Yeah, and there's a lot here, so just not to get too confused. Every 5 years, the state requires that we have what's called a building condition survey, and that's extensive, and it pretty much informs us about what we need for our capital projects. Keep the place maintained. So that's based on that. That also keeps our debt schedule even and moves forward. So the proposed budget summary at this point in time, I don't expect it to change. You kind of see that proposed budget amount at the very top line. What we expect in state aid, proposed tax levy amount total, other revenue, and finally what we will need to appropriate from reserves and fund balance. So we're set at our maximum allowable tax levy at 4.26%, requiring a simple majority. And I think that's about it for that slide. Are there any questions?
The highest graduation rate in 25 years,
Yeah.
that should really be published.
It was, and it will be again. Yeah.
I mean,
We're actually anxious to see what the graduation rate was in 23. We don't have that official data yet. It's somewhere right around there. But we don't even have that official information to state yet.
because when we send the flyers out to the people, they should be
I think we put it in I remember putting it in the last year's budget newsletter. It's really something to celebrate. People done a great job. I don't think we need to go into the contingency budget, but I did want you to know that by law, we have to have a contingency budget in place, ready to go in case the voters vote down the budget. And that could happen, but I hope it doesn't. But we have options on that, if that happens, to either go back out with the same budget, a changed budget, or just go directly to contingency. And so I just wanted to give you the assurance that that is also made, so there's no increase over the previous year. And the vote's coming out, it'll be here before we know it. We're already starting to work on the budget newsletter. And I think by March, this time at the board meeting, we will definitely have better numbers, and April is when we get done. So, any questions?
So you've talked about the fact that the governor's budget proposal takes a step back from foundation aid. That's still the case. We haven't heard anything different yet in terms of what the legislature intends to do with that proposal.
Yes, we have actually. So there's been a lot of advocacy. The next couple of weeks is really heavy in advocacy. But all of the legislators, both Democratic and Republican, they're assuring us without actually voting that we're not going to need to worry about something less than 2%, which is what we were promised and what is reflected in our budget right now. Mm-hmm. So I know that sounds scary. We will go back to the drawing board if we have to, but it's really never been the case. I don't think the governor's going to understand it well. And from everything I'm hearing, and I think that's safe to say. There are many school districts not this far along in the budget development process because they're not willing to put out those numbers. Mm-hmm. But consistently, we've seen this game. It's just a game. And if we have to, we do have fund balance and reserves to utilize further. We're talking about what a deficit. If the governor's numbers went through, we'd be looking at a deficit of almost $500,000, which we'd have to either have to make some decisions or we just use more fund balance. We hate to say, we do have a healthy fund balance, so that's not.
So our numbers factor that expectation of the governor's budget.
This budget factors in our traditional increase, not the governor's. Okay. So that's a great question. I should be transparent about that. And so that's why I say this isn't done. It's what we anticipate, it's what we expect realistically right now. So I certainly wouldn't recommend making further cuts. It's not something I'm going to recommend, but I'm at the point of the board, we can talk about that, of course. When the time comes, we find the legislature is not going to give us the increases that we expect. We just have to do our work. Right now, I just don't see it. Alicia, you want to comment on that?
No, I just feel like the advocacy is important, and I also think politically it's important that our governor look at an on-town budget for April 1st. So the longer this sits out here, she'll begin to jeopardize an on-town budget for April 1st, which doesn't look good either. So there's some decisions to be made legislatively in terms of where the priorities lie, in terms of supporting our schools and continuing to do that, but also the message it would send if there was not an on-time state budget. So I think that's a piece of it too.
This budget also reflects some hard work on the part of the administrative team. I mean, what we decided we wouldn't or couldn't fund from what we funded previously, the ARP funds, that was a lot of work. And last time we were together, I think I said we had to find $250,000 more, something like that. We did find it. We did find a way to make that work.
I mean, and I think right now where we're at, of course, we can continue to go back to the drawing paper, but I think it's worth mentioning too that the efforts that we've made, we've stayed away from any negative impacted program. If we have to go further, it could jeopardize some of the things that we'd be able to offer to the extent we would be able to offer it. So, this has been, I think, almost 30 years. Dr. Crankshaw and I have seen this game played. And so that's why you sort of kind of are in the wait and see mode right now, because legislatively I don't see our legislators allowing this current budget to go through the way it is.
This plan leaves everything intact that we have right now. I would say some people can argue with that because what the federal funds have allowed us to do is have some more staff members than we previously had, pay higher stipends or some things. But essentially, we're not cutting any programs. This budget really funds what we need.
And I think we had a meeting not so long ago, but I think part of the advocacy going on too is more and more school districts have become more and more the center to the community, providing all the service beyond historically what school districts have supported. And as that grows, we need to have the state supporting us through funding. So I think that's another piece of the advocacy going on right now as well.
Well, also today I met with the superintendents just later on.
That slide is in the budget, what was 2014? It's 21st.
Thank you.
It's not. We didn't do that slide.
Yeah. Just so,
I'm glad you said
watching the video.
I wasn't even supposed to go to that slide. We met with the superintendent today, and the district superintendent asked if we would give our tax levy increases and our budget year-to-year increases, and nobody volunteered to do that. I did, but they didn't want to. So I don't know where everyone else is. I'm assuming we're all kind of in the same place, or a similar place. So, yeah, good. Thank you.
Okay. We'll move on to recognitions and celebrations. This evening we have recognition of the ABCD awards. And so what I'd like to do is ask Jen if you would read on each candidate, and then Dr. Crankshaw and I will present certificates and awards, and don't run away if you'd like to take a photo with you. All right, that's the protocol, right? Yes.
I'll read the beginning first.
Yes, please.
The ABCD Award was born from the board's sincere desire to acknowledge those employees of the Greater Johnstown School District who are nominated by school community members because they go above and beyond the call of duty to make a difference in the lives of our students and help them succeed. The board and the district administration are pleased to recognize 3 outstanding ABCD Award winners. Ms. Ashley Polidor currently serves as an extended leave substitute math teacher at Johnstown High School, as well as the JHS play director and musical director, spending countless hours in the fall and spring to produce successful drama performances. Ashley encourages students from many different social backgrounds to participate in theater, whether as an actor or member of the production or stage crew. The positive experience of working with her has helped these students to become more confident in their abilities, leading them to work hard to make each show as spectacular as possible. Ms. Polidor's presence and positive energy in the JHS theater program goes above and beyond the call of duty.
Congratulations to you.
Oh my goodness.
You're welcome to say something, or you can just, you can fade.
I will just say thank you. That's this is surreal. So thank you.
Grammy Award would be speech. So So if you'll just hang on for a second, you can sit down.
Yeah.
And this is
Okay. Although Ms. Watson is not here tonight, we want to acknowledge her. Mrs. Karen Watson is a school social worker at Knox Middle School and also serves as Dignity for All Student Staff Coordinator and a Success Mentor. Families say that she's always there for her students, providing a safe space, encouraging words, and a shoulder to lean on, as they have expressed that they are especially grateful for the nurturing care and extra support she provides, making time at school a better experience for children. Mrs. Watson's passion for helping those in need and her ability to make a difference in a child's life are positive measures that truly rise above and beyond the call of duty. Ms. Melissa Livingstone is a kindergarten teacher at Pleasant Elementary, whose patience and compassion helps the youngest of students and their families adjust to the big step of leaving home and entering the unfamiliar world of school. She also serves as the district's mentor coordinator, helping to create a professional learning culture for new teachers in the district. Dedicated to generating ongoing improvement that benefits both students and colleagues, she's earned national board certification, a voluntary advanced teaching credential that goes beyond state licensure and is recognized by many as the profession's highest credential. Ms. Livingstone's work to benefit student learning and strengthen the teaching profession goes above and beyond the call of duty.
Just thank you.
all right, it's a good. Well, congratulations to you both. Really fortunate to have you.
Come on back up.
You ready for ready for your close up?
Oh, yeah.
Just don't shoot again.
You bring in things.
Never know where to go. This is
Not
not the road here.
Not over here. With the glass block behind us?
Oh, that's fine.
I'll do that.
You stand here and don't let it fight.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Congratulations, ladies.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is our public comment. Comments from public on agenda and non-agenda items. Board of Education welcomes district residents, parents, students, and other people to our meeting. Community involvement at board meetings is encouraged so that we can better understand your views. Please be aware that individual student information or particular personnel issues will not be discussed by this board during public session. When recognized by the board president, please state your name and address. Statements are restricted to a maximum of 3 minutes, and speakers will be notified by the board president when their time has expired. When speaking, the public shall direct their comments to the board and not district staff or other audience members. Speakers shall not expect board members to answer questions during public comment. Questions will be referred to the superintendent or his designee for review, study, and response. If appropriate, the board may request the issue be a discussion item at a future Board of Education meeting or Board of Education committee meeting. Is there anybody here who wishes to address the board? Okay, seeing no one, we'll move on to reports. We'll start with the superintendent's report.
Thank you. I'm very brief, if that's okay. I did want to just call to the board's attention, we have, the weather committee, we have a wellness day plan. So following this is the first, but Wellness Day is really nicely planned for students in the morning and staff in the afternoon. And I have the staff Wellness Day agenda in front of me. It looks pretty robust. We had people sign up for activities, and I think people really took advantage of the Wellness Day opportunity. And if nothing can happen tomorrow, it's only because of weather. But I think we have a really nice day planned for the staff, and we'll go on vacation after that. If you wanna learn anything about that, I've got the details here. Other than that, I didn't really have anything, because I do have some executive session.
Do you reschedule?
We're thinking about rescheduling, trying to find a way to reschedule, yeah. The thing to remember too, whatever decision I make is based on 5 days of snow days, which we still have in our bank, and I've got to get those back anyway, so probably I'm not really looking at a delay tomorrow. I'm probably looking at a closure just to make sense. The students only come in the morning, faculty in the afternoon for Wellness Day, so we'll probably reschedule, just call it a day.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, so on to employee leadership reports, and this evening we have Nancy Lisicki here to give us a presentation on mini grants.
I'm not sure how to do this.
Well, you actually have it
Is it
in
on?
your agenda,
Yes.
so it's okay, it's not there. Okay.
I just don't know what it's at. It'd be fun to see on the big screen. If you're here. Let's go ahead and see if we can-
Just
see if we can-
imagining this happening when I'm a bunch of kindergartners. And now they've all left the building. So if you want to scroll through, this edition of the JTA mini grant presentations are going to focus on the art department. They took full advantage of the opportunities afforded by the JTA mini grant program, where we invest in our members and thereby investing in Johnstown students. So our new art teacher at Knox, Ms. Flanders, she used her mini grant funds for supplies for the newly created Knox Art Club. That would be your first, oh, there we go. That would be your first slide. Okay. The art club is one of the new student interest clubs at the middle school that was created this year. So Ms. Flanders was able to secure funding from the JTA to get this club off the ground. Because obviously an art club would need some supplies. So students really loved making these beautiful tiles. They applied cork to the back. So making actually beautiful coasters. So it was actually functional art. And because of the time we had the opportunity to give these away as holiday gifts. In your, that's a list of the project materials that you utilize. In your spare time, if you'd like to check out the YouTube video on how that process works, YouTube isn't great here, so we're just gonna move on. Oh, yes. I'm just trying to find out where to cue it up, and it doesn't really load really well. Then, meanwhile, Ms. Kelly, up here at high school, she utilized her mini grant fund to purchase a mini cordless projector for the art room. Here you see Mrs. Marley. She's tracing a military logo onto the wall, utilizing the projector with a big purple arrow. The mini cordless projector is used mainly for designing the murals that adorn the hallways. I love the murals in this building. It just brings it to life. I'm sure you all do as well. So Ms. Kelly, she really encourages students to work harder. Smarter, not harder. This little gadget does precisely that. She said the projector is really a game changer for her students because it hooks right to the laptop. It doesn't require an outlet or a plug, so she really can take it anywhere. So it really cuts the prep time in half. So they're able to start painting earlier than they used to have to do this by freehand. So. And then if we move on to Pleasant Avenue and Warren Street, Mrs. Hammond, she is between buildings. So she really made her, she made her funds really go far. She first utilized some mini grant funds to purchase more materials that promote and foster students' creativity and critical thinking. She has a statement about that. These items are used on half days during station work and even can be used when students are the early finishers for their work. She purchased building materials, blocks, and puzzles to encourage her artists to think outside of the box and to really practice the needed fine motor skills necessary. As you can see, those would be the STEAM items in that first picture. Mrs. Ammon also purchased more art books in the center here that students can read and look through, and she's hoping it'll spark some more creative ideas. They can sit together, work in pairs, and have discussions about what they read or what they're seeing. And finally, Mrs. Ammon also uses funds to support students' social and emotional needs. She has a little common corner in each of her rooms, and as a member of both SRT teams in each building, Mrs. Ammon has a space in her classroom for students to use during class if they need to take a little break, but also if she doesn't have students, if she doesn't have class, kids are welcome to use that space as well. It gives them the opportunity, if they are having a hard time in class, to de-escalate without actually leaving the classroom, so that limits the amount of instructional time lost. So, as you know, student learning happens in a variety of different ways. The goal of the JTA grant program is to allow teachers to explore those avenues of learning for the students by providing them with the students. So, thank you for letting me share.
Sure. Thank you. Okay, board report, I don't have anything to offer as a board report. We have a couple of committee reports. I will quickly share the audit budget and finance report. We met on February 7th, 2024. We began with a review of the revenue outlook for 2024-25. Dr. Crankshaw and Ms. Costa met with Assemblyman Smullen and his aide, along with Mike Schenk, Chief of Staff from Senator Walczyk's office, and that to provide us with a specific picture of the constraints we have, along with positive improvements made over the last several years. This district is awaiting the next governor's proposal, most likely sometime towards mid to end of March, to changes to the education aid proposal. Under new business, we reviewed the program component of the 24-25 budget, which we just saw presented this evening, so we're not going to be redundant about that. In particular of note is the staffing funding, which is a particular big component of the costs, and seems to, well, quarterly reports and grant updates were reviewed. Nothing substantial to review and make note of there. Reviewed the proposed revisions to policy 6510, health and dental insurance. This is to ensure continuity and memorialize current practice for how the district honors legacy commitments to staff in retirement. It's endorsed by the Health Insurance Committee, which consists of union leadership for all bargaining units. This updated policy was reviewed by the school council, Aaron Morris, and preserves the Board of Education's control over legacy coverage. Collective bargaining agreements remain silent on the issue. The Greater Johnstown School District procedures in response to New York State Ed audit on ESF funding was discussed. The business and HR team have developed procedures that address the key processes for district's operation. The procedures in response to New York State Ed ESF funding audit were the main priority, while other procedures will need additional refinement in the future. Once the board approval was granted this evening, the procedures meeting will be sent to SED with a communication letting them know that we have been responsive to the request for procedures related to the audit. We reviewed the bid results for the 23-24 capital outlay project, and due to some coordination issues, the initial bid effort was rejected. A rebid was put out there. Bids were scheduled to be open on February 8th, and we'll be seeking board approval this evening on those results. We reviewed the RFP submissions for the ESCO. Remind us, what's ESCO?
Energy Services Company.
Okay. So the Energy Services Company RFP resulted in one proposal being submitted That was by Danforth, who is our current ESCO for the capital projects that are underway. And as part of the technical proposal included in the ERP, or in their proposal, was a project with a 2.5 megawatt solar PV system at an implementation price of $7.4 million with a guaranteed energy savings of $292,000. Project incentives of $2.2 million and an 18-year simple payback. After the award, meetings with Danforth will occur to develop this project further and prepare for the vote of referendum in May. Facilities Committee will refine the scope to include in this project, so that might include pool heating improvements, EV charging for buses and other vehicles, battery storage, complete upgrades of our building management systems for efficient HVAC control. We will continue to review the timeline for this project with the Facilities Committee. However, we are planning to have a position on the ballot for the May vote. While we talked a lot at this meeting. Reviewed the RFP submissions for transportation services. We advertised the RFP for transportation services commenced with the 24-25 school year. Proposals were due on January 31st, and we received one proposal from SDA and the response to our ad. SDA has met the requirements of the RFP as per their proposal. The RFP included home to school routes, out of districts, special education routes, athletics, extracurricular, and sports trips. The RFP also built in flexibility should you need to add a leader bus at a later time, and also provided language for continued sharing of routes and other identified cost savings measures. Operating our transportation services should realize about $1 million savings over what our actual services for 23-24 are trending towards. The RFP also included the sale of our current bus fleet. Out of 22 buses, SDA has submitted a proposal to buy 16 of these buses at a total price of $927,500, recommending to sell 14 of the buses and maintain our 2 newest buses as district owned. This would leave 6 buses for auction over the summer, which are our older buses. Proceeds from the total sale of buses would flow through to fund balance at year-end closeout. We will be seeking board approval this evening for the award of the services to SDA, and after approval, we will complete the necessary agreement and SED contracts. The agreement specifies an annual contract with renewal each year, 5 years, and an increase tied to the New York State Ed May CPI, so below this cap. We will then begin route design with SDA to allow for sufficient time to plan and implement these services for September start. So that was a big meeting, lots discussed, some of which will be on our agenda later on this evening. Our next meeting is March 13th at 6:30 p.m. in the district office. Any questions? Okay. And then who will be giving? That's Jen. Okay, Jen will be giving the academic and extracurricular report.
Yep, we had an academic and extracurricular meeting on that same day, February 7th. We reviewed we talked about the district's code of conduct being updated. Mr. Hale discussed how the shared decision-making ad hoc committee was using its time in terms of reviewing the code of conduct. The next meeting for that was today. It's anticipated that draft template will be presented based on the work and feedback from the individualized subgroups that were established to work on all the various topics surrounding the code of conduct. We also reviewed policy 7109, comprehensive attendance. We reviewed the rules for course credit based on absenteeism. For example, the policy states that after 20 days of absences, there's no credit. We talked about reviewing that policy in the future and making it in line with how the process is working here at school. making things less punitive and more restorative, less procedural, and more discretionary language or guidance around those issues. Lots of discussion still needs to happen, and we will be revisiting that policy so it reflects our practice. We talked about the attendance implementation plan, and it shows the procedures that are in place for attendance throughout the district at all levels. Policy 8260, Title I Parent Involvement. We talked about the annual review and needs assessment and recommendations for improvement that are required as we revise that. And it will be reviewed by the instructional cabinet. We also discussed in this committee policy 6510, health and dental insurance. We also reviewed the component budget as the other committee did for next year, so we won't go into detail on that as well. Let's see. And our next meeting is not until June 5th at 5:30.
Thanks, Jen. Okay, moving on to correspondence. We have 2 bits of correspondence to review. The first is notice from the Johnstown Public Library, a request to provide a basket for their annual basket raffle. So I was curious if anybody on the board would be willing to take command of that task, or does the board not wish to provide a?
For sure.
Anybody want to step forward? Yeah. So, could I recommend that we each chip in $25 for to do that? Since we are couple
Fewer,
seats fewer, we can maybe make that up a little bit and still provide enough resources to put together a reasonable basket. So, happy to take the money this evening if you have it. If not, by next month we could bring in the cash. Get it All right. Next item is the nomination letter from BOCES. The election of members to the BOCES Board of Education will be held on Wednesday, April 24th, 2024, in a meeting of each component Board of Education. On June 30th, 2024, the terms of the following board members will expire. They include Carmen Caraco, Rebecca Kozakria, and Matt Sullivan. Anyone who meets the requirements of candidacy for the local Board of Education membership, other than a component school district employee, is eligible for nomination of election to the BOCES board. There is no requirement that the persons nominated be currently serving on a local Board of Education. The person or persons nominated do not have to be residents of the nominating school district. The law does not permit more than one BOCES board member from any one school district to serve on the BOCES board. Therefore, we cannot accept nominations who reside in the school districts of Baldwin and Perth, Gloversville, Johnstown, or Northville, nor can those boards submit nominations. I guess that takes us off the list. So if that is the case, I'll just simply conclude that the nominating petitions must be received by board clerk no later than Friday, March 22nd, 2024. Since it really doesn't apply to the district, I won't continue to read this notification.
We still have to vote.
We'll still have to vote on it, on the candidates when the time comes, but we're not in a position to nominate it. Okay, on to some actual action here. So, approval of consent agenda items in an effort to expedite the business of the Board of Education, but in no way meant to diminish the importance of each item. A consent agenda may be used for the items in the section. Items may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any one board member. Items not removed will be adopted by general consent without debate. Any removed items may be taken up either immediately after the consent agenda or placed later on the agenda at the discretion of the board. Our consent agenda action for, I'm sorry?
All of them are same.
All of number 7A, prior board meeting minutes. B, warrants for December 2023. C, the treasurer's report for December 2023. D, Medicaid compliance report. E, casual employment opportunities pay rate for 2023-24. And F, adoption of revised 2023-24 school calendar. So, can I get a motion? I'm sorry? Oh, 8, okay, yeah. So that also includes item 8, consent action personnel, which includes the abolishments, leaves of absence, resignations, miscellaneous creations, adjustments, and appointments. And then item 9, consent action for CSE, CPSE, 504 committee placements, and the approval of said committee minutes. All of those, 7, 8, and 9, would be included in tonight's consent agenda. Can I get a motion to
I
accept?
would like to remove E, just because there's no attachment. There's no.
Motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent to approve the following casual
I'm
employment.
not sure there needs to be an attachment, but
Pay rates for the 2023-24 school year, accompany us $35 per rehearsal and $100 per performance.
but I think that's the only, that's the issue.
information.
That's all.
Okay.
I'm sorry, usually you'll see a list. Usually
You
you
said
see,
there was no attachment, so I can see that.
there's no attachment.
If you click on the actual item E,
Yeah, it's just.
it's embedded in the item, not as an attachment. Okay. Keep E in there.
It's confusing, though. Usually you see a list.
Okay.
I'll make the motion then.
Okay, can I get a second? Ron? Okay, any discussion?
Can I ask what the revision calendar was?
Yes, the revision for this year, is it
Yeah.
for this year's calendar, yeah.
Yeah.
For this year's calendar was give back days were noted at the bottom of the calendar.
Okay.
And we've just changed, March 27th to April 8th, which is a Monday,
As a give back day.
that's a given.
Oh, okay.
That's the only change. I did remove the calendar for next year off of this agenda because we need a little bit more time to, because of Asian Lunar New Year and Juneteenth, we just had some things to figure out.
So you didn't add to the calendar?
We didn't add to the
Subtract.
calendar, we literally just changed one of the give back days from March 27th now to April 8th. That's it.
So we did have April 8th off.
Yes. If we have some days to give back, which I.
So it's still, it's an if, but
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, call the question to a vote. All those in favor, say aye. Raise your hand. Very unanimous. All right, so on to action items business. So the first thing, and I do have to say up front, we've got a number of things that I think I do have to read through, so I'm going to resist the urge to clump them all together. So the first item is I'm looking
where are
for,
we?
this is item 10 on our agenda, action item business. 10A, appointment of election inspectors for May 21st, 2024, budget vote and board election. I'm looking for a motion to approve the Greater Johnstown School District residents Sally Ostrander, Jackie Sterin, Thomas Rule, Charlotte Leo, and Nancy Gill to serve as election inspectors for the May 21st, 2024 Board of Education election and budget vote, with each inspector to be paid the sum of $15 per hour as compensation for his or her services. Further authorizing the district clerk to fill any vacancies in these positions which may occur on or before May 21st, 2024, with Greater Johnstown School District residents whose names appear on the Fulton County Board of Elections Inspector Personnel List. Can I get a motion? Marge, second Ron. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Next up is award of bid for the 2023-24 capital outlay project, removal of oil tanks at Pleasant and Knox. Looking for a motion as follows. Whereas the Greater Johnstown School District received, accepted, and opened bids on January 11, 2024 for removal of oil tanks and associated piping at Pleasant Avenue Elementary School and Knox Middle School in connection with the 23-24 capital outlay project. And whereas the apparent low bidder is Real Deal Landscaping, and whereas Tetra Tech Engineers, Architects and Landscape Architects, BC, has recommended the award of the contract to Real Deal Landscaping. Now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Education hereby awards the contract for the 23-24 capital outlay project to Real Deal Landscaping for a total contract award of $144,760. And be it further resolved that the school district administration, architect, and legal counsel are directed to draft and execute necessary documents to commence construction on the project. Any motion? Art, second. Joelle? Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. Unanimous. Next up, senior class trip to New York City, New Jersey. Looking for a motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent to approve the class of 2024 senior trip to New York City and New Jersey, leaving Johnstown High School on June 7th, 2024, and returning June 9th, 2024. Any motion? Joelle, second. Jen? Any discussion?
They're going to a Yankee game, right?
Yes.
What's the $50 they get for the Yankee game? Do they buy their own seats with that, or is
No, that's for souvenirs, food if they'd like, anything for their own pleasure.
So the seats are purchased all together?
Correct.
Okay. The other thing is, I don't know, turning these kids loose in Times Square?
They'll have chaperones. We have enough chaperones. We do one chaperone for 10 students. So, but they'll
Okay,
only
so we're
be-
not turning them completely loose?
Correct. They're not going to be.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
It's not like the 80s.
You mean like we did in the 2000s?
No, we used to do that. Be back here at a certain time, and they made it. And I think, I don't.
Oh, so wait, you're questioning it now, but you didn't know.
I don't think I could do it now.
It's a foreign countries now.
They're foreign countries.
Just out of curiosity, where in New Jersey are they?
Great event, or, yeah, Six Flags.
Six Flags. Okay,
Yes.
that makes some sense. I'm trying to figure out why Jersey, but
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good Six Flags.
I'm just, it's the first time it hasn't been Florida in some time, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor? All right, unanimous. Next up, award of transportation services for the 2024-25 school year and sale of buses to STA. Looking for a motion to accept the following resolution. Whereas the Greater Johnstown School District conducted a request for proposals with a submission deadline of January 31st, 2024 for transportation services, including home-to-school transportation, individualized transportation, extracurricular, sports, and field trips per the specifications for the 2024-25 school year. And whereas the sole proposal received was submitted by Student Transportation of America, STA, and meets all requirements contained in said request for proposal. And whereas said proposal includes the purchase by STA of 16 school buses currently owned by the Greater Johnstown School District for the sum of $927,500. Now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Education hereby approves the sale of 14 school buses to STA for $731,500, and be it further resolved that the Board of Education of the Greater Johnstown School District hereby awards a contract to Student Transportation of America, Inc., SDA, for transportation services per the RFP specifications for the 2024-25 school year, and hereby authorizes the superintendent of schools and or board president to execute said contract, and further authorizing payment as contained therein. Can I get a motion? Art, second. Jen? Any discussion? Question? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor? We are unanimous. Next up, we have Business and Human Resources Office Procedures Manual. This is a motion to accept the following resolution. Whereas the New York State Education Department Office of Audit Services conducted an audit of the Greater Johnstown School District's education stabilization funds received under the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, with said audit period covering March 13, 2020 through September 30th, 2022, and whereas said audit recommended that the Greater Johnstown School District develop comprehensive, detailed procedures to complete the business and human resources processes conducted by Greater Johnstown School District personnel on a daily or regular basis, including but not limited to accounting, grants management, human resources, payroll, and fringe benefits. And whereas the Greater Johnstown School District's Business and Human Resources Office has placed in writing the procedures it follows to provide tangible guidance for the workflow of said offices, now therefore be it resolved that the Greater Johnstown School District Board of Education has reviewed the Business and Human Resources Office procedures, manual, and based upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, hereby approves the duties and activities outlined therein to be implemented and carried out in a manner consistent with policies adopted by the board. Can I get a motion? Jen, second? Joelle? Any discussion? I will simply say that this was a lot of effort on Alicia's part and her staff. And I want to commend you for that effort. I know it's been a bit of a pain to do it, but I recognize the improvement that it should lead to in operations. Looking forward to seeing this implemented. So there's no other questions, comments? I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Okay, we are unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Also a public comment that Lorraine and Susie played a huge part.
My apologies. It's been something to out of it. Okay. Next up is the award contract for energy services. This is a motion to accept the following resolution. Whereas the Greater Johnstown School District conducted a request for proposals with a submission deadline of January 31st, 2024 for an energy services company to assist the district with a comprehensive energy project under an energy performance contract basis. And whereas a proposal submitted by John W. Danforth Company meets all requirements contained in and said request for proposal, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Greater Johnstown School District hereby awards a contract to John W. Danforth Company for an energy performance contract project inclusive of a solar PV system not to exceed $7,500,000. And be it further resolved, the Board of Education hereby authorizes the Superintendent of Schools to execute said energy services contract and further authorizes payment as contained therein. Can I get a motion? Art? Second? Ron? Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Next up is first emergency contract for provision of transportation services. This is a motion to accept the following resolution. Whereas the Greater Johnstown School District is faced with an unforeseen circumstance when it recently learned that HFM BOCES would not be able to provide transportation from an out-of-district run for students accessing services under the McKinney-Vento Act. And whereas Education Law 305-14B permits the Board of Education to award an emergency transportation contract without competitive bidding not to exceed 1 month. And be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby determines that an emergency exists as would satisfy Education Law 305-14B. And be it further resolved that the Board of Education hereby authorizes the superintendent and/or board president to enter into the necessary emergency contract not to exceed 1 month with Brown Transportation, Inc. at a cost of $4,500, $200 per day for the period of December 18th, 2023 and January 8th through January 18th, 2024. Resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately. Can I get a motion to accept? Jen, second. Art? Any discussion? Just for clarification, services have already taken place.
They have, and that's why you'll see a second emergency contract as well.
All right, so all those in favor? Thank you, we're unanimous. So next up, we have the second emergency contract for provision of transportation services. This is the same thing I just read, and now for the dates of January 18th, 2024 through February 16th, 2024. So I'm looking for a motion to accept the same parameters. Okay, Art, Jen, seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. Unanimous. Next up is action items personnel. First up is, I'm sorry?
11 and 12, I don't see anybody here, and I think he's talking off.
Art.
Just saying.
I have no objection to clustering the,
Except that we just tried to.
I don't see anybody here.
You don't have to.
Yeah, I don't see anybody.
well, I'll tell you what.
I have, I like to go through
Okay. So how about we cluster item 12 for discussion, and I'll read through item 11, action items personnel, item for this. So first up is an irrevocable letter, option 4 retirement incentive for Susan Elliott, Spanish teacher. This is a motion to accept from Susan Elliott, Spanish teacher, an irrevocable letter submitted on December 19th, 2023 to retire on July 15th, 2027 under option 4 retirement incentive as set forth in the July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2026 collective bargaining agreement between the Johnstown Teachers Association and the Greater Johnstown School District. Can I get a motion?
December 21st for the water, and it's returning 30th. Are you on the next one? On item B?
The first one's Susan.
Second one is December 21st, retirement date. So, yeah. Okay, so the first one is December 19th, 2023 is the date of the letter. Okay. Can I get a motion to accept? Okay. Can I get a second, Marge? Any discussion? Yes, sir.
the three teachers that we have here that are retiring, quality people, quality educators, they're gonna be really, really difficult to fill.
I don't think there's any questions on that.
It's nice that the one who gave you 2 years. So it's very good.
Yeah, they're not all retiring this year.
They're all what?
They're not all retiring this year.
Right, well,
Yeah.
the C isn't, I guess.
Right.
Why would, Elliot is not, either. Why
This
would
is Miles is the only one retired.
yeah, why, with this, Tara, why would she put it so far ahead?
We have a new provision in the collective bargaining contract agreement.
That is what,
Well, it's a retention incentive, actually. So teachers eligible to retire, they used to be able to do, announce that the year of, or 2 years in advance, or 3 years in advance. Now we go further so that they don't miss that opportunity to retire with an incentive, that they can stay longer.
do we have an incentive in place already? Okay, I wasn't aware of it.
So, yeah, that was negotiated in the last contract negotiation. So it's a way to retain teachers rather than, so it's 6 years out, but they had to do it now.
Okay, so when she retires,
So they don't miss out on that 3-year window, which we used to have.
okay.
A little bit hard to comprehend.
Oh, no, I understand that now, okay.
I have a question, is the new latest contract in Word docs?
I don't think so.
Can you put it in there? I don't know the last time I've gotten a contract, an updated
It's a
contract.
good idea.
That should probably go for any collective bargaining.
Correct, yeah, can you put all of that in there?
You should be responsive to. Okay, so in regards to Susan Elliott's retirement, I'd like to call the vote. All those in favor? Thank you for unanimous, and when 2027 comes around, we'll congratulate you. Okay, next up is an irrevocable letter Option 1, retirement incentive for Melissa Miles, mathematics teacher. This is a motion to accept from Melissa Miles, mathematics teacher, an irrevocable letter submitted on December 21st, 2023 to retire on June 30th, 2024 this year. Under option 1, retirement incentive as set forth in the collective bargaining agreement between the Johnstown Teachers Association and the Greater Johnstown School District. So can I get a motion? Marge, second, Ron. Any discussion? All those in favor? And we will congratulate Mrs. Miles on her pending retirement. Next up is the letter, option 5, retention incentive for Tara Bruce, science teacher. This is a motion to accept from Tara Bruce, science teacher, an irrevocable letter submitted on January 30th, 2024 to retire on June 30th, 2029 under the option 5 retention incentive as set forth in the collective bargaining agreement between the Johnstown Teachers Association and the Greater Johnstown School District. Can I get a motion? Art, second. Ron? Any discussion? All those in favor? You're unanimous. We'll congratulate Mrs. Bruce on retirement in 2029. Okay, next up, board discussion. Items A, B, C, D, and E. I think we were all in agreement to cluster those as one action item. So I would look for a motion to accept. I'm sorry? Oh, good point. So the first one is just a first reading of revised policy 6212.1, incidental teaching. Second one is a first reading of revised policy 6510, health and dental insurance. Item C is first reading of revised policy 7530, child abuse and maltreatment draft. Item D is inclusive of reviewing policy 7109, comprehensive attendance and an attendance implementation plan. And then item E is the continuation of policy manual audit section 7000, policy 7610, 7710. So anybody want to talk about any of these? The items are there for your review. And you can catch up to those at a future date if you have questions. A few informational items. March 6th is the next facilities committee at 6:30 p.m. district office. March 13th is the audit budget finance committee, 6:30 p.m. district office. March 14th is the business meeting and budget discussion at 6 p.m. here in the Johnstown High School Smart Cafe. Next up, we have a possible executive session. Looking for a motion to enter into executive session. Exempt from the open meetings law at 7:20 p.m. for the following purpose. That would be for discussing the employment history of a particular person, discussing matters that may lead to the appointment of a particular person, discussing collective negotiations pertaining to the CSEA union pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law, and discussing potential litigation. So, can I get a motion? Art, second, Jen? All in favor? Okay, we are in executive session. And we will track our votes, and Dr. Crankshaw will provide you with data after.
We're gonna stay here.
That's hard.